G'day. In this series of videos, we are combining Psychopy and Python programming to create the line-bisection task, which is an experiment that we can use to probe visual-spatial neglect. And we've created a program from scratch based on Kim et al. 2005 Neuroscience Letters paper. And if this is the first video you've watched and you want to see how we've got to where we are, which is essentially a working program, stop the video here, go back to the start and work your way forward. We've taken it quite slowly on purpose so then you can get an understanding of how it is that we've constructed and created this program from scratch and how we've thought about creating the stimuli and doing all the event timing and things like that and getting keyboard input and whatnot. If you've seen those videos, let's get cracking. So at the end of that previous video, we created the dialog boxes so we could set up the user ID, the experimenter ID, the date, and then we also created the save file path that we then passed to the .to.csv in the pandas. So we get the data frame into a CSV format and then we save that in the folder. And what I did right towards the end there is I said, hey, look, don't waste any information. If you're going to get that information in there in your dialog box, hey, either save it as a log file or put it into your into your file name. Now, when I did that, I just said, okay, we can just add that in, and so we did this string concatenation down here with the save file name. And then we said, okay, we wanted the first bit of information in an array, and then the second information, and then we wanted the third. Okay, so there's the first, and there's the second, and then there's the third. Let's try and run that program, and you'll see that there's actually a problem with what we're trying to do. So we're running that, okay, and then I'll just bring that over here. So yes, this is the information that we want. We'll just put it as XXX, it doesn't matter. And we'll click OK. And we click OK, it says, oh, hang on, we've got a problem here. When I try and concatenate these strings together, remember, concatenate means join together or add strings together, or concatenate means sort of add to the end. We can do it for experimental date, yes. We can do it for the name. However, when we get to the age, okay, because it's an integer, you see, we've got it in there as a whole number. It's saying, hey, look, you can't do it because you're trying to concatenate an integer and not a string. And so you'll ask yourself, well, how do we get it into a string? Well, there's a couple of ways that we can do that. One is, well, if we don't care about the value of the number, it's just essentially just an identifier for the age. We can essentially encode it as a string in the file here. Sorry, in the dialog box here. The other way that we can do it is when we actually try to concatenate that, it's this one here, we can convert it into a string by putting string show dialog 3, okay? And so we can remove these quotation marks here, and so we're actually saving it, or we're putting it into that array as an integer, but then when we try and concatenate that into the file name, we first convert it into a string. And so this should hopefully work, and it means that the number itself is still classed as a number, but it will be converted into a string when we make the save file name. So if we go here, we go OK. You see, it's now working fine. It's actually, you see here, we've got the save file name here, okay, and that's the age there. Okay, so we just click save there, and I'm just going to quit out of this because we don't want to run the program. Fixation line, quit out of that, and then okay, we're done. All right, and then it's thrown up that error because remember when we created the data frame, we needed each of the columns to be of the same length. Some of them have already got 40 elements in them. Some of them we're going to populate on a trial by trial basis, so they start at 0 length, and then towards the end of the experiment they then have 40 in them. And so that's what this is saying here. It's saying, hey, look, you're trying to make me create an array where some of them have 0 in it and some of the columns have 40 in it. I can't do that, okay? So that's how we get rid of that error. Now you'll also note, okay, there is another problem or a potential bug that's lurking in our code, and we'll get to it later. Have a look here. If the dialog box is okay, and we've actually got data in there, we will run the program as normal. If we hit cancel, all right, we will print user cancelled, but then we will still run the program as if nothing happened. So you see here, we're not actually making a decision. We're not cancelling the program from running. When we hit cancel, it's still going to run. So we're going to have to put that into our things to do list to basically figure out a way of saying, okay, if we cancel right at the start, we cancel the program from running. Only if we have data, or only if the OK button is pressed, okay, and we're sitting in here, only if this is true, do we want to run the program. We'll get back to that later. Now, if we have a look at the experiment as it currently stands, we'll run this program again. It basically will start with the dialog boxes. We then fill those dialog boxes, and then we hit the save dialog box. And so we go, yes, this is correct, okay, and yes, we do want to save the program in this area here, and we go, yes, please, thanks for that. And then if you notice, it just immediately starts with the fixation cross. Okay, and so therefore there is no warning to your subject. The subject doesn't know what to do. The subject hasn't sort of, maybe they're squirming around, or they're trying to get into their groove, so to speak. And so what we want to do in this video is we want to just create some sort of setup or some instructions. We want to set the instructions to the subject to say, hey, look, get yourself ready, and then start. Okay, so we'll quit out of that. We don't want that. Again, the pandas is shooting us this message saying, hey, look, the arrays are not the same length. That's fine. We know why that is. So now let's have a look at setting up the program before we run the program, if that makes sense. Setting up as in, giving your subject the control over when to start the experiment. So all up here, we've got all the save file path and all that, that's fine. And then we're setting up all of our randomization for the presentation order. That's all fine. Now what we're doing is we're creating the window object, and then we're creating our stimuli. Remember, we've got the fixation cross, the bisected line, and we've got the masker stimulus. And then we've got our main program loop here. So what we want to do is we want to basically present a blank screen with press enter to continue or something like that before we get into our main program loop. So let's go above that. Well, we can use the same window as we created before. Okay, this is a very simple program that we're running with a single window. And so now what we'll do is we'll just go create, say, subject information, and wait for their response. Not create subject information, create subject wait for subject to press enter, when they're ready. Something like that. So what do we want to do? Well, we've got a white window there. That's perfectly fine. We can leave that as it is. But we want to put some text on the box, okay? So we want to now look at Psychopy, and I think text is in visual. So here we go here, commonly used text, text stim, or text box, which is a rewrite of text stim. Faster, better, but only monospace font. We can just use text stim. We're not after super quick execution of our code here. And so let's see what we've got here. We've got Psychopy visual.textstim. So let's go here. We'll put text info equals visual dot capital T ext capital STIM, and we want that to appear in win 0, because remember, we've created this window object here, and we want this information here to basically be drawn onto the window in memory, and then we'll flip that onto the screen, and then we'll wait until the subject presses enter. Okay, now what's the text that we want on there? So the text will be press enter to continue. Not to continue, to start. Something like that. Okay, on the next line, what do we want with the font? We'll just leave the font as whatever the default is. We don't need to worry about that too much. Now the position of that text, we'll just put it in the middle. We'll see you know, we'll see where it ends up. We can push that around, no worries at all. Okay, color equals, we'll make it black text. Okay, not post, it's pos. Black text, and contrast is 1, units. Okay, so the units we'll have as pixels again, and now we should have something like size or height. Here we go, height. So height equals, let's see, again, I don't know how this is going to look, so I'm just going to put a number in and just see what happens. So have a look here, we go down to the information. Color space contains contrast, depth, draw, flip vert, font, string, font, height. Here you go. Height includes the entire box that surrounds the letters in the font. The width of the letters are then defined by the font. Okay, so yep, that should be fine. Let's see what happens. So now, as with everything, we then text info dot draw. We want to draw it into memory, and then we want to flip it onto the screen. So then we win0.flip. Okay. Now, what we need to do is we have to say while true, we then want to win flip, and then what we want to do is we want to draw it X. Oh, actually, we can probably get away with just event.wait keys. Key equals event.wait keys. Max wait equals a long time. Key list. Now we're just going to hit enter, the enter button. Clear events equals true. Okay, so hopefully what will happen is we will draw that info onto the screen. Okay, we'll then flip the window, and then we'll wait for a key press. What we should do after that key has returned something, we will say win0.flip, so then it should just clear the screen again. We're not drawing anything into the memory again. It's going to be a white screen. Okay, and so if we now run this program, okay, press enter to start. Okay, text, we haven't got a, where are we? Equals. Okay. Okay, positional argument follows keyword argument. Okay, so I've done something wrong here. Positional argument equals, again, I haven't done a thing there. Key list. Oh, good heavens, I've missed all the equals. I'm not having a good day. All right. So what we're trying to do is just to leave that program just sitting there saying press enter to continue, and then so your subject can basically get all nice and ready. If you have to leave the room, you should probably leave the room when the task is being done, so then they're not distracted. Then, you know, nothing will happen until the subject presses the enter key, and then it will run into the program. Okay, so we'll just click OK. We don't worry about this, and we'll just click OK again. Save, that's fine. And so hopefully if we've done everything right, press enter to start has gone into the middle there. Okay, great. So it's basically just waiting until the subject basically presses enter to start. So let's see if it works. I'm going to push the space bar, nothing, hit the Q button, nothing. I hit enter, and then hopefully if it works, it should work. Why has it not worked? Let's see what we can do. So we need to control, we will go into our command prompt, command C that, that's the keyboard interrupt. Okay, so what have we done? I don't think there's an enter button. I think it might be return. Return, as in carriage return. Let's try that. Okay, so I'll just go through that dialog box again. All right, press enter to start. I hit enter. Yeah, there we go. So it was actually the return button. Okay, so I'm just going to quit out of that. So it's not enter. The enter button is not the enter button. It's actually return, as in carriage return from when we used to have the teletype and the old typewriters. Sorry for going quiet there, but essentially that's all working now. So the program will wait and wait and wait. Well, actually, it will wait for 9,999 seconds for the subject to sit down and get ready. Okay, and then it will wait, and then it will start that program as before. Now, that text was a little bit small, so let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's go something like, let's go crazy. We'll make it 96. Okay, so this is all now just stylistic stuff. You know, what do you want? How do you want your program to run, to look to the subject? So again, we'll run this, okay, and then the save dialog box, okay. So now you as the experimenter, you're walking out of the room saying, you know, best of luck, well done. Press to enter to start. So that looks a little bit bad. So maybe that's a little bit too big there. Okay, so I'll hit E. Okay, so actually when I hit E, it worked. Okay, so we'll have to figure out just what the heck is going on there. All right, so maybe it's if anything is in that key, because we're not actually making a decision. So if any key is pressed. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll say something like if return in key. Okay, we will then pass. Something like that. Okay, because we weren't actually making a decision about if the enter key was pressed. Okay, that pass statement just means, all right, we've done that, we'll just pass on to the next line of code. All right, so again, we'll just click OK here. We'll click OK again, save, that's fine. All right, so press enter to continue. Okay, I hit spacebar, nothing happens. I hit Q, nothing happens. I hit enter now, and then it's going into our experiment. Okay, great. I'll hit Q, we'll get out of that. Okay, so this pass is just basically saying, look, if when we've hit the wait keys, if there is return in keys, then pretty much this is true, and we'll just pass over the rest of it, and then we'll run our program as per normal. If nothing is pressed, or if return is not pressed, then this is not correct, and so therefore we'll stop and we'll hold up everything here. Okay. What we will do is we will first win0.flip. Okay. You know, you can even put a core.wait in here, so for like half a second, or you know, for 1 second, just to make sure that you know everything's truly settled down and that your subject is actually ready to do the experiment. Okay, so we've now that 96. We'll make this say 48. We'll just make it a little bit smaller. See what happens. We're running that program here, so again we'll chuck that over here. Okay, that's fine. Now we don't need to print this out anymore. We know that it's all working. Okay, so press enter to start. Okay, so I'll hit enter. So now it's going to take a second. There's your fixation cross, and there we go. Okay, so that's great. You know, that seems to be a little bit more comfortable for the subject to sit down and really focus in on what's going on there. Now in this text info, this text dim, I want to see if I can justify it to the left to see whether or not set flip, set LMS, set opacity, set orientation, set text size, text units, use shaders, window, wrap width. Okay, so maybe wrap width is something. We don't want the text to wrap at all. So if we have a look here, height, anti-alias, bold, italics, align horizontal, none, align text. Oh, maybe align text. Maybe it's left. Let's try that. Align text equals left. Let's have a look here. Align text to the contents of the bounding box, left, right, or center. Okay, so the default, it looks like, was align text center. Okay, so maybe if we put it back up to 96, maybe we should be okay. It should be aligned to the left. Let's just see what we get. Okay, so save the file. We're running the file again. The dialog box is going to come up on this screen again. Okay, that's okay. We'll click OK, and then we'll click Save File. We'll see what we get now. Okay, what happens? Okay, align text, unexpected keyword argument, align text. What have I done wrong? Align text center left. What can I put in there? Let me just pause the video and we'll come back once we've figured out how to align the text. Hang on, 2 seconds. Okay, so it looks like what's happened is that the documentation for align text, so the documentation reflects the latest version of Psychopy. However, I'm using an older version of Psychopy, and so therefore the text that supports the version, they're not compatible to a great extent. So what I have to do is use a slightly older horizontal alignment here, and so we're going to use align horrors instead of align text. So if you're using Psychopy 3.3, you should be able to use align text and anchor horizontal, whereas since I'm using a slightly older version, I will need to use align horrors. And so the way that I figured that out was because I pretty much just cut and pasted the error here. Okay, this error being got an unexpected keyword argument, align text. I just put that into Google, and then we got into the discourse.psychopy.org, and on January the 9th, 2020, so about a month and a bit ago, Mandarina came to the same issue and said, hey, look, I'm trying to do this and I've got this error. And then Michael has said, hey, look, it's probably the fact that the API reference manual reflects the new version, and it hasn't quite, those changes haven't quite made its way into the source code for Psychopy. So what we're going to do is we will run on our line task and we will use align horrors, okay? And so we'll put it somewhere here, so align horrors, and then we'll make that left. The other thing that we're going to do is we'll just make this a little bit smaller. We don't need it to be so big. And so now when we run our program, everything should be fine and up and running. So Python 3 line task.py. So yeah, that was just a little bit of troubleshooting. Get the error, put it into Google, and see whether or not Stack Overflow or Psychopy.discourse, Psychopy discourse, someone else has come up with that error, and see if someone else has helped figure it out. Okay, that's fine. And then we'll go save. Okay, that's fine. Hopefully it should do what we want it to do now. Press enter to start. And so now our subject, we're leaving the room. The subject is now relaxing, nice and rested. And then when they're ready, they'll hit enter to start. And then you got the fixation cross. There's the line there. I hit F, and we run through the trials again as per normal. Okay, so I'll quit out of that. We're going to get that error because the columns are the different lengths in pandas. So in this video, what we've done is we've created an ability to set up the program and wait for the user to get ready to then start. And so that was a very simple text stimulus. And plus we put this little event.wait keys right at the start, okay? And so that's all nice and neat and all together, and that will occur once at the start of the experiment, and then we run into our experiment proper. Okay, so we'll leave this video here. Sorry we had that little bit of confusion in the middle bit there, but I think we've figured it out. And okay, I think I might leave this video here for now. We might return to it later, but essentially what you've got is a pretty good overview of how to create an experiment from scratch. Starting from nothing, we've done a little bit of troubleshooting, we've created some stimuli, we've created the masking stimuli, we've created an ability to save the subject's responses using CSV, using pandas and CSV saving. We've got some dialog boxes in there as well, and we've got a general program that will work. And it will do the line bisection task. It will do one of those blocks of 4. So you can essentially run that program 4 times, and you can say to your subject, okay, which line is longer? Okay, and then you can write that down in your lab book. Okay, this data file represents which line is longer. Okay. And so I don't think I need to do much more than this. If you find that you do want to be able to control a whole experimental session in one sitting, okay, put a comment or message me somehow in the comments or something. I check the comments quite regularly, and say, hey, look, Andrew, can you please show us how to control all 4 sessions in one sitting, okay? And more than happy to do that. It's basically going to be a nested loop in here, okay? The other thing that we haven't done that I might get to in the future is to basically, what we need to do is put our main program loop, okay, in a function, and then we put that function sitting in, we place that function in this, okay, if there is an okay in this my dialog, and then only if this is true will we run the main program. So in future we should put the main program, okay, in here, and so it will be called and run, okay, only if my dialog.ok is well okay. Okay. So you might leave that as a little exercise for yourself. How do I basically package up the whole of this program, okay, into its own function, okay, and then you put that function in here, and so therefore you can run it. You will run it only if this my dialog.ok is satisfied. Okay, so I'll leave this video here. I think we've done enough. I hope you enjoyed it. There are certain things that we've done quite slowly and methodically, hopefully, and there's some other things that we've gone rather quickly through. If you'd like to see something else with respect to this video series, then by all means let me know. Ask for it and we can see what we can do. But what I might do now is just have a look around to see if there's any other experiments or psychophysics experiments that we could build from scratch. And I'll see you in the next video series. All the best with your experiments. Remember, your subjects are stupid. They're there to break your experiments, and so you need to understand, or you should really try to understand, just what you're trying to do with your experiments and how to program your experiments so that, you know, nothing is left to chance. Okay. All right. I'll see you later. Goodbye.